Hey everybody, how's it going? So we're back here with another brisket video. This time I'm going to be doing a full tutorial from the beginning to the end on all the steps that are required to smoke a brisket on an offset smoker. We're going to get started here. This is the night before the cook. I like to dry brine my brisket in the fridge overnight. Let that seasoning sit in and soak in deep so we can get that good flavor throughout the meat. Today we're working with a prime brisket. Got this from Costco. It's a little more expensive at Costco than it is at Sam's, but I wanted to try theirs as well. So I just pulled this out of the freezer. Pro tip, it's much easier to cut and trim the brisket, the fat, everything, when it is colder. So I throw it in the freezer for 20 minutes just to get it a little extra cold so it can last throughout the trim. It does take a little while, and it just makes it easier to cut. It also helps to have a sharp knife. Get yourself a trimming knife, little 6-inch trimming knife. This is my trimming knife I have. You see it's very sharp, 6 inches, and it's perfect for trimming. That's what I use. And I'm going to show you guys how to trim this, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to remove it from the packaging, and then we'll get started. All right, so in my last video, when I cooked the brisket, it was mostly like a vlog. I definitely learned a lot from it. Made some mistakes, but figured it out now. So I wanted to go ahead and make a full tutorial. Should be easy to follow along. So here we have, this is called the meat side. This is where it's all the meat mostly. There's some fat here, and this is what we're going to trim off. We want to remove all the hard fat on here because that's not going to render well, and we want this to be pretty even throughout. We want to keep this natural curve, this aerodynamic, but make it as flat as possible. The other side is the fat side, and as you can see, it's all fat. We're also going to be trimming this to make this as flat as possible here. Again, this is called the point. This is called the flat. This is the thinner side, this is the thicker side. And the goal here is to pretty much even it up, cut off any loose ends that are hanging off, that are not going to cook well, or they're going to burn. So, and also remove any unnecessary fat. Alright, let's get started while it's still cold. I don't want to lose that benefit of having it cold because this fat does get harder to cut off when it's soft. Let me remove some of this moisture. Just a paper towel, just pat it, just remove some of this moisture. A little bit froze because I had it in the freezer for 20 minutes. All right, so let's get started with the meat side. And so here what we're looking for is you want to feel this. This is hard fat. All right, so we want to remove this. We want to expose the meat so that it's very uniform throughout the whole brisket. Now, remember, there are different ways to trim a brisket depending on the situation. Restaurant, competitions, or just in your backyard. We're going to be doing a backyard version of it. We want to keep as much of the meat as possible so we can eat. Well, actually, this brisket is actually for my first customer. I'm going to be smoking it, and they have purchased an order of this, so I want to make sure they have a lot of meat and they're happy. So let's get started here. So we're going to get started. Don't go deep. Keep your knife sideways. And what we're going to do is basically just start working at this slowly, and you can go over it as many times as you want. Don't go deep. I'd rather just go over it more times to make sure that we don't go too far. What you don't want is to have any sort of concave dips that are gonna make this cook unevenly. So all this fat here I want to remove. There's also silver skin, and this is up to you. You don't have to remove all this silver skin, but I like to do that. I just like having it all uniform throughout the whole brisket. Now the best way is to pull at the fat and slice it slowly. You don't want to just and then cut off a chunk and then ruin it. So just very lightly, as you can see, I'm barely going in. Okay. And you want to keep the natural shape, this aerodynamic shape. It helps in the smoker, helps distribute the heat well. So you don't want to really change the shape. It's just kind of remove a layer. And so yeah, I'm just going to keep working at this. And I'm just going to be removing mostly this, a lot of the silver skin as much as I can, and then we'll work on this piece right here. And then I'll show you the next steps from there. Alright, so almost done with the meat side here. Just wanted to tell you guys a couple things. If you have trouble getting to a certain spot, you want to put your hand underneath. Gets you a little bit better angle to get at these hard to reach places, like in the middle of the brisket. That's just a little tip. Also, anything like, well, I just did this on purpose, but anything hanging off like this, you want to get rid of, right? you want this, and we're gonna do the sides after, but I want you to know that you want to cut off any little pieces that are sticking off because they're just gonna burn and it's gonna not be perfect. Now, this piece of fat here, don't go into this and cave this and try and get out. You saw in the little clip that I just keep working at it, making sure it keeps the shape, it's flat. I removed a good amount, but you're not going to get rid of all this. So just keep going at it, and I'm almost done. There's plenty of silver skin on this one. And to get the silver skin, you want to go under it like this, and then just work your way out. Go to the sides. Okay, I'm not going to get rid of all this silver skin. I'm just getting rid of what's bugging me, these more thicker parts. But I'm not going to get rid of every single bit. I'm going to be here for like an hour trying to do this. And it's really up to you. It's just a preference thing. You know, if I really want to impress somebody, I'm going to sit here and take my time and remove everything. But remember, everything you trim, you lose. So I try to not trim more than necessary, because you're just losing meat there. See, like this part right here sticking up, just flatten that. All right. Try not to do dips. You know, nobody's perfect. It's not going to come out perfect, but try not to do dips. I mean, it happens. It happens. And it's okay, but you want to try to avoid that. So now I'm going to work on the sides. Now, this is where the trimming varies depending on what you're doing it for, but since this is just for, you know, customer and I want them to have the most meat possible, I'm not worried about making this look beautiful, perfectly shaped, like for you would for a competition. I want this person to get the most meat. So we're going to trim both sides here. And again, we just want to keep the shape of it already has, okay? But we want to straighten this edge, all right? Make sure it's straight, nothing bulging out, nothing sticking out. We want it to be straight, but following this shape, okay? Also this meat here, it's tough meat, we want to get rid of this. So we're not going to cut much, maybe like 1/4 inch off. Okay, and just straight down. And that way, it'll be even on the sides and it'll just be a better cook. It'll cook more evenly. And also when you take off the sides, it helps you expose the meat and you can see the fat layer and get an idea of how thick the fat is because we're going to work on that side after, and we can get an idea of how much we want to remove. Also, now look at this, guys. Look at that marbling in here. That looks amazing. This is a prime from Costco, and this is looking great. Wow, look at that. That's beautiful. So again, flat, straight down, all the way through, and we're going to just keep going. right, so now we're going to do the edges. Again, this side is straight. I don't take much off, like as you can see. I didn't even make it to a 1/4 inch, I think. I don't want to. So for these edges, so you know, when it comes to competitions and you're showing off, they cut off a lot more than this. They trim a lot more, and what they usually do is curve this into a curve. Okay. I'm not trying to waste all that meat. This isn't a competition. But what you do definitely want to do is, you can see the difference here. Look how thick this meat is. Look how thin this is. So this is not going to cook evenly. Anything too thin is pretty much going to burn. So what we're going to do is curve it like you're supposed to, but very minimally. I do not waste anything, so we're going to go like, alright, like a curve like that. Just barely. And by the way, if you notice, I don't have my cutting board. It got ruined. I ordered a new one. It was supposed to be here today. Got delayed. It's not coming until tomorrow, so that's why I'm cutting on this thing. I'm trying not to ruin it, because it does get scratched. But see, for me, that's good enough. I know this is still a little thin, and if you want, you can cut more off. But me, like I said, I don't like to waste any meat. Just do want to make sure that it is straight, again, straight edge. And see this here, this came like this. Look at this, it's kind of removed. So I'm just going to go with that and remove that completely, because you don't want anything sticking out. Alright, see, for me, that is good enough. I'm not going to cut any more off this, except for this little piece right here. Alright. I'm not going to be cutting any more off of this. This looks perfect for me. I'm happy with the meat side. There is some silver skin here, but it's not much. I did take off the worst parts. Again, these fat pieces right here, if I go any further, it's going to create a dip, and then that's going to pool with all the juices, and it's just gonna cook differently. I want this to be pretty uniform throughout, and just keep working at it. I mean, as you can see, I keep rubbing it. What I'm pretty much feeling for is that it's smooth and flat, you know, with its natural shape. But so I keep rubbing it, and then I just looking for any last little pieces that are not smooth. I think that's good. This is good for me. I am happy with this. I am ready to flip this over. Just get this last little bit. All right. Okay. Now let's flip this over into the fat side. Now on the fat side, again, this is the point. This is the flat. It has two natural ridges here, and what we're going to do is, again, try to make this as flat as possible, aerodynamic. You want to have about a 1/4 inch of fat cap, enough to render and be juicy and get a good bark, but not too thick where it's not going to render and you're going to have some chewy pieces. So again, now on this side, you see this stuff sticking out here. We're going to remove this first carefully. Anything hanging off like this, it's just not, it's not going to cook well. Okay, and then see here, the fat cap is pretty thin. And on this side, the fat cap is huge. So we're gonna remove some of this. And this is where that natural hump is. There's another one over here. Sometimes there's a, a mohawk or a big fat piece that's just hanging off. Most people just cut that off. This one actually, it was processed pretty well. There's not much to do. This butcher knew what they were doing. So again, layer by layer, don't just go into it because you don't want to expose the meat on this side, okay? That's the goal. You don't want to expose the meat because then it's just gonna be unevenly cooked. And we want this layer of fat on here because fat is flavor, guys. So I'm gonna work on this stump, get it nice and down. Obviously it's not gonna be as thin as this side over here, but to a point where I feel comfortable with it. So I'm gonna be working on that right now. So what you want to do here is basically make this as flat as possible. You want to remove the hump. The hump is pretty much almost gone. And I don't know if you saw, but a good way to not go through all the way to the meat is you start cutting a little bit. Then you get a piece of this, you grab it, pull it up, and then what you can see underneath it. And if you see meat, you can stop and start going the other way. But it's so thick here that I'm not really worried about it. But in the thinner areas, I will be. See, like that. Just boom. All right, I'm gonna keep working on this. So one way to see, well, we can see the fat here, but another way is poking it. And if it feels hard, that means there's a lot of fat there. On this side, it doesn't feel as hard. There's not that much fat here. Now this little edge got exposed, but it came like that, and can't do much about it, so we'll work with it. But again, this part feels really rough. I'm gonna keep working on this. Remember, you don't want to make any dips. You want to keep it flat as possible, but you also want to have the right thickness of fat. All right, so on this side, so the flat is one piece of meat and then a layer of fat. The point, though, it is a layer of meat, a layer of fat in the middle, another layer of meat, and then another layer of fat on top. Now, again, whoever processed this brisket did a really good job because sometimes there's a big chunk of fat here and it seems like it's already been done. They took it out mostly, and it's hard fat. It's not going to render well. So basically what you would do is remove some of it, and they already did that for me. Thank you. Not too deep, as you can see here, it's not super deep, but keep it flat, you know, but you can push it down and then just can't even notice that there's a cave there. You remove that unwanted fat. Now there's a little flap here of fat that's sticking out. I don't want that. See these flaps here? I'm just gonna slice those right off. Remember, at least for me, I try to go a very thin layer at a time. I don't want to expose any meat on this side. But I do want to remove any unwanted fat. This flap here, I'm going to remove some of it, not all of it. Like half of it here. Alright. That is good for me. Alright, and I think I am done with the fat side here, guys. Just making sure it's, you know, still pretty flat around. You want this to be aerodynamic so that the smoke, when it travels through this offset smoker, that it travels evenly and doesn't miss any parts. I think I'm happy with this. This looks pretty good. Let's flip it over now. Give it one more look on this side. And yeah, I think I am happy with this brisket. It's a little thin edge here, but it's okay. I don't want to remove any more meat than I have to. See, this is where that fat I was telling you earlier. There's a little cave here, but since there's two layers of meat, they kind of come together, but sometimes it sticks out pretty far, and it's very tough fat, and it's not going to render well. I think I'm done with this. Let me work on this edge a little bit over here. I don't think I did. This, I'm going to straighten out the sides. Alright. Okay. And I think we are done. We're going to call it done. So now I'm going to season this. Put it on rack on this pan. And then we're going to throw it in the fridge and let it do its magic. Again, when you dry brine something, basically the salt penetrates the meat and it goes into the meat, giving it flavor not just on the outside but also inside. It'll also give you a nice bark. You can use a binder. A lot of people like to use binders, all different kinds. I don't personally like to use a binder. I find that my seasoning sticks pretty well. I have never had an issue. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do next. All right, so for my seasoning, I like to use a combination of kosher sea salt, coarse, of course, some coarse ground black pepper, granulated garlic, and basically it's gonna be 2 parts pepper, 1 part salt, half part granulated garlic. I have a container here that I repurposed to make my seasoning. As you can see there, it's 2 parts pepper, 1 part salt, 0.5 part garlic. We're using an old seasoning bottle here. So yeah, mix this up. Make sure it's nice and thoroughly mixed. I want a good, even coating. And the reason why there's so much pepper is because the pepper helps with the bark. That is what's going to give you that nice, dark, crusty bark that you want on the outside of this. And I think that's mixed pretty well. So we're going to season this baby up. All right, so we're going to start with the meat side. Now you want to get a good, generous coating all throughout. Every side, the edges, everything. All right, and be generous because this is gonna make for a good bark. All right, do not be shy when you are seasoning this. I tend to use this whole bottle on one brisket, so that's what we're gonna do here. So you want to have a nice even coating throughout. Then you want to pat it down, help it stick a little bit there, give it a little help. It almost looks like a bark already, you know? Look at this. This is perfect. Look at every area. All right. I think that's good for this side. Do not neglect their sides, please. Get every edge. A nice, gracious, generous coating. So another little trick here, what I do is I just kind of season my hand here. Try to get the meat, but season my hand, let it all fall into my hand, and then pat it on. Some of these edges are hard to get, and you want to make sure you get everything. So you can use your hand there as a guide and pat it on. Drop any stuff, pat it back on. You don't have to waste any of this stuff. I want to use it all. I want this to have the most flavor possible. All right, I'm gonna keep working on these edges. All right, I think we've got the sides all pretty good here. Yep, that looks perfect. And anything we miss, we'll do it when we flip over. So we're gonna flip this over. One more little pat down, make sure this sticks good. I see a little bald spot here. I'm gonna add some more. I want this to have the most flavor possible and get a perfect bark. All right, now the fat side, same thing. Cover this baby up with some flavor. Remember, do not be shy with this seasoning. We want to create a bark. And this pepper, all this seasoning is gonna help create a delicious bark. Grab some of this stuff that fell off. Put it back on there. Pat it down. Make sure that is sticking good. And just keep going around and finding little ball spots and making it even. So that's what I'm gonna do. Again, if you missed any of the edges, the sides, while it was flipped over, just take care of that now. With your hand, pat it on, and pat it on. We want this to look even throughout. I think I'm almost done here. The bottle's almost empty, so that's my sign. This edge can use a little more. There's a little ball spot here on this edge. And again, just take all this seasoning. Sprinkle it on. Do not be shy. Please be generous. You're going to thank me later. This is going to create a really nice bark. Oh, look at this tip. Missed that tip. So perfect. This one I can hold up. Add it in. Alright. Do you guys see anything? I think this looks good. Maybe a little more right here on this edge, but that'll be it. It's pretty much good to go. I'm just going to keep coating it with this droppings here. Give it a good pat here. And that'll also help you expose any areas you missed, like over here. It's not sticking quite well to this edge here. That's why people use a binder. But as you can see, most of it, I don't think it needs a binder. And I don't want any extra surprising flavors in my meat. I love the taste of brisket on its own, with just basic salt, pepper, and garlic. All right, guys, that is seasoned. And we're going to put this on a cooling rack, put this in the fridge overnight. Let me go get those cooling racks. All right, so I just wanted to show you guys real quick that I did use the whole bottle. So please make sure you are generous. There is nothing left in here. Some of it fell off, it's okay, but as you can see, it's beautifully coated evenly. I didn't miss a single spot. And it's even throughout, top and bottom. Now, I put them on these cooling racks. If you saw my last video, you saw how weak my little cooling rack was. Got some better ones now. They hold up nicely. And now the reason you want to put a cooling rack under there is because you want to get airflow underneath, so that this brine works perfectly well all throughout. If you just put it flat on a pan, the bottom isn't going to get as good of a brine. So get yourself some cooling racks, pan, and throw this in the fridge. I'm going to get my fridge ready for this baby. All right, so I cleared off the top of my fridge, the top rack. That's where you want to place it, right under the fan, so that it gets the best circulation. And this is ready for its night in the fridge. It is currently almost 9 o'clock p.m. I plan on starting the cook at around 5 a.m. So yeah, just about, it's a good amount of time overnight. All right, guys, I'm going to cut this here and then We will pick this back up in the morning. I'll show you my setup. We'll go through the entire process, like I said, from the beginning to the end. All right. Quick little thing. So this is all the trimmings from the brisket. Mostly fat, some meat in there. I don't think there's enough meat to do anything with. I mean, you can grind that up for some burgers, but I don't have that much. I mean, you won't get that much out of one brisket. It's if you're doing multiple briskets, maybe you'll have enough to make some burgers. But what you can do with the fat is I'll show you that later, but we're going to render all this fat and make some tallow. All right, guys? All right, guys, it is 5:30 a.m. I just pulled out the brisket out of the fridge. I'm gonna let it rest on the counter here for maybe 30 minutes while I get the offset all set up. Just wanted to give you guys that little tip. Make sure you remove that brisket out of the fridge 30 minutes before. Let it get to room temperature on the counter. All right, it's about time to set the brisket here on the smoker. Just want to show you guys real quick the setup. I got the water pan on one side, closer to the firebox. I got the drip tray underneath. There is a probe right here to get the ambient temperature of the grill. There's gonna be 2 more probes. I'm gonna put one on the flat and one on the point. And I got a piece of wood warming up here. This is how you should warm up your wood. You can do it either on top of the firebox like this, or I'm gonna fix this right now in a little bit. But so what we're gonna do here is move all this charcoal to the right side, close to the vent. Pretty much only gonna take up half the space in here, and then that way you can put your future woods. You can put them right here on the very edge. They won't catch, but they will get heated up. And you want to do that because when you throw a piece of wood on and it's not warmed up, it's going to release a lot of that black smoke because it's going to take a while to catch. And during that time that it's catching fire, it's going to release a lot of black smoke, and that's the smoke you don't want. We want clear smoke coming out the stack. We want thin blue smoke. So just make sure you have a couple pieces over here on the side on the left. I'll show you guys later to keep them warm, and then when you throw them onto the fire, they instantly light. No black smoke is released, and you maintain the integrity of the whole cook. All right, I'm gonna throw this brisket on and then I'll show you guys. All right, guys, I just wanted to show you guys real quick. This is my offset smoker. It is a cheap one from Walmart, but I have made it a lot better by modifying it. I just wanted to show you guys that real quick. I got the Lava Lock system where they have the paste, and as if you can see that little thin red line there in between there, these are sealants that keep the smoke in, because this thing was leaking a lot of smoke, and that helps keep the smoke in, keep it all the airflow going correctly. And you can see the paddings here on the edges. If you see these right here, I installed these, and these keep it from leaking smoke. And as well as in here on the top of the lid, right here on the side, over here, and in the back. And this has completely sealed the whole offset smoker, and it really helps maintain temperature. So I pretty much upgraded a cheap offset smoker. Didn't have the money at the time to get a good one, but I made it work, and it works excellent. I mean, my cooks have been amazing. So yeah, I just want to show you that, guys, real quick, right before I throw on the brisket. And this is what I meant about having your wood on the side here. So as you can see, I have the wood that's going to be thrown on soon, warming up on the side, and I have the charcoal on the other side. So watch, I'm going to put the piece of wood on real quick. Sorry, let me switch hands here. It's hard doing this one-handed. So this one I just put in, so this one has been warmed up. I just want to show you guys real quick how it catches, like, pretty much instantly. And there it is. It's already caught right here. As you can see, it's not releasing a ton of smoke. Usually if you have a wet piece of wood, it's going to be releasing a lot of smoke, and look, pretty much no smoke anymore. And that caught really fast. So that's what I mean about warming up your wood. You want to do that before you have to put it on. So always have a little piece here, one or two, and you're good to go. Alright, so the brisket is on the grill, and you want to have the point, the thicker end, facing the firebox. It can take a lot more heat, you know, in comparison to the flat, which is very thin. This can take a lot more heat, so I'm going to put it closer to the firebox. This is as good as I can get it on there because my grill is pretty small. The water pan here, this is going to help regulate the temperature inside the grill, and it's going to create some vapor, which will give that brisket the moisture it needs, have that bark set really nicely. And the drip pan there is to catch any drippings. And here we go. I'm gonna put these probes in. So we're gonna do one on the point, alright, one on the thickest part, and then one on the thinner side. Let's see where I can get it right here. Alright, so one on the thinner side, on the flat, one on the point. And this way I can just kind of get a little average of where this brisket is at. It doesn't really vary too much from end to end. It actually stays pretty consistently. And here we go. I'm going to start this, I'm going to shut this, I'm going to get it going, get it up to temperature, and we'll talk about some fire management. Alright, so the cook has begun. Currently the temperature internally is 246. And that is the temperatures of the brisket right there. There's a 5-degree difference, not too bad. I'm warming up another piece here on top. You can also do it that way. You can set it on top of the firebox. That would also work. So last time I cooked between 225 to 250. It took extremely long in this grill. So what I'm going to do this time is keep it between 250 to 275, but I'm going to try to keep it right around 250. Last time I was letting it drop to like 230. That's just too low. So we're going to try to keep this for 250. We'll see how long this takes today. We started at 6 a.m. and I'll keep you guys posted about every hour. And so just real quick before I go, you see the thin blue smoke coming out of here? Might be hard to see. I don't know if you can see it there or not, but I think you can see it there. That's what you want your smoke to look like coming out of the smoker, okay? If you have dark smoke coming out of the smoker, it's gonna ruin your meat, and that's why you gotta learn how to manage your fire. That black smoke, it creates soot, and it gets stuck to the brisket, and then it's gonna have a very bitter, nasty, burnt taste. You want it to be clear smoke the whole time. That is the goal. It's pretty easy once you learn how to manage the fire. Like I said, just always have wood heated up and ready to go. That will prevent it from creating black smoke, and make sure it's ventilated well. So for me, what worked for me is having the this open all the way completely, as well as the inlet over here that is completely open, and that way I can just manage the temperature by the amount of fuel that I have in there, amount of wood, instead of messing with these closing them. I know people, swear by only having them a quarter of the way open, halfway open, but what I found works for me is just having it completely open on both ends, and then you just manage the fire, the temperature, with the amount of wood that you put in there. So here we go. It's creeping up to 255, so it's perfectly temperature right now. And yeah, I'll keep you guys posted every once in a while. We're gonna start spritzing it in a bit. I'll show you guys our spritz mix. All right, bye-bye. All right, so real quick, I want to show you guys this temperature has reached 290. Here's how I manage my fire. What we're gonna do here is I'm testing out this wood. It's new, so they're different sizes. So what you want to do is, if your temperature gets a little too high, you want to open this firebox up. That's going to start bringing the temperature down. Now, if this thing gets way too high, then you can open up the main chamber, and that'll bring it down a lot. But right now, it's just a few degrees over. I'm going to bring it down to around 270, 265 maybe, and then close it back up. And just keep messing with it till I get the hang of it. Seems like this log here is starting to catch. We don't want that. Alright, so get yourself some high temperature gloves. It's going to help manage this fire a lot. So see, just within a few seconds it's down to 260, and now I know that I need to put in a little bit smaller chunk of wood. So here's my high temperature gloves. Get yourself some of these. They're going to help you manage this fire easy. And yeah, so pretty much I'm going to wait for this log to start burning out, and then the next piece I put on won't be so big. Yeah, see, we're chilling in the 260s, and yeah. Alright guys, real quick, I just made my spritz. I use this beef broth and pickle juice, a 50-50 ratio, 1-to-1. I did 1 cup of each here, put it in my bottle, and I'm going to be spritzing. I don't spritz too much. I spritz about every hour, mostly just the flat, because it is cooking faster, and I want to just kind of cool it down a little bit and keep it from burning. So yeah. Real quick side note, I threw the trimmings, the fat trimmings from the brisket from last night into this pot. It is on super low, and as you can see, the fat's starting to render. Pretty soon there'll be a lot of that. There's not much fat this time. Like I said, the brisket was processed really well. I barely had to do any trimming. But anyways, I'm gonna get what I can from it and get some tallow. But yeah, pretty much you just put it in a pot, put it on low, and 2-3 hours, it should be done. All right, just a quick update. It's been 4 hours now. Here is the internal temp. It's at 259, doing well. 132, 136, opposite ends of the brisket. Now, about an hour and a half into the cook, the temperature difference from the point and the flat was 30 degrees. So here's what I did to balance it out. Now it's only 4-degree difference, which is perfect. This is what I had to do. Let me show you real quick, because I'm going to spritz it as well. I had to create a heat shield with some foil on the flat here, and just covered it real quick, just like that at the end, and that helped bring it to an even temperature. I'm going to spritz it as well. I've been doing that as well every about an hour or so. I'm spritzing the flat mostly, and a little bit on the point on the end here so it doesn't burn. But I just wanted to update you guys and give you that tip as well. If your cook is uneven from both sides, you can just create a heat shield and take a look at that difference. Ooh, all right. The temperature went down a lot because I opened the grill, but yeah, you can see that the difference between the point and the flat are minimal, and that's what we're looking for. All right, I'll keep you guys posted as we get along with our cook. I'm guessing around 165 to 175. Depending on the feeling of the brisket, I'm going to wrap it, and then we'll talk about that at that point. All right, just a quick little update. The tallow is now ready. It's been like 3 hours. There wasn't much fat off the trimmings, so this is all the tallow we got. And at this point, you just gotta filter it and put it in a container, let it cool down, and it'll turn into tallow. All right. So just to show you real quick, I've strained it, and now we have pure tallow down here. Just letting it drip in there, let it cool down, and eventually it'll turn into a hard white butter looking kind of thing, and that'll be tallow, and you can use that to wrap the brisket. You can use it for anything. You can cook in this and it's delicious. So just a little side note here. All right, everybody, so it has been 11 hours and we have removed the brisket from the smoker, and we're going to wrap it, put it back in there until it gets to the right temp. So I wanted to talk about temperatures real quick. So I've been cooking this at around 250, 275. That's what I've been cooking it. That's what I found works best for me and my smoker. You can cook it from anywhere from 225 to 275. I then cook it until the internal temperature reaches, right now it's at 163. But by the feel of it, by the touch of it, it's ready for me. Temperature isn't the only indicator. There are a lot of indicators. You know, how the bark, if it's set, the tenderness when you probe it. And I just know that in the past this works for me. So 163, I hit the stall and time to wrap. And then we're gonna throw it back in to the smoker until it reaches 203. That's what I like to take it out at. Again, that's totally up to you. People do it anywhere from 200 to 210. So whatever you find works best for you, but I'm showing you the way I do it. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna wrap it in butcher paper, the pink butcher paper here. We're gonna wrap it really tightly. And then we're gonna do an aluminum foil boat. I like to make that combination. It worked for me. It comes out very juicy and it's what I like. This is the tallow from earlier that we made. As you can see, it's now turned into like a white, hardened a little bit. Still pretty soft, but it's hardened mostly. We're going to pour that onto the butcher paper when we wrap it, and all over the brisket. That's gonna lock in the juices. Sorry about that. So yeah, it's going to lock in the moisture when we soak it in the tallow. We're gonna, again, put that all over the butcher paper and on top of the brisket itself. We're gonna wrap it really tightly, put an aluminum foil boat, and then throw it back on the smoker. I'm gonna raise the temperature a little bit to 275 to 300, and we're gonna let it cook until it gets to around 203. And you will know when you probe it, it's gonna feel like butter, and it's gonna be jiggly, and that's when it's done. So after that, we're gonna put it in the warmer at 150 degrees for a 12-hour resting period. It's a very important period, and it has to be in the area of 150 degrees. If you have an oven, you can do it in there. That's what I use over there. And you can rest it for as long as you want, but I have found that the resting period makes all the difference, and I think that a 12-hour resting period is ideal. So obviously there's a lot of preparation and planning that has to go into a cook like this, but it is completely worth it, and you will see that by the end of the video. So right now we're gonna go ahead and wrap this and throw it back in there. All right, so I liquefied this tallow, and what I've done is just pour it on the butcher paper here, you know, generous amount, and then you're gonna rub it in. And I pour it on the butcher paper that's gonna be touching the brisket. And I'm also going to pour it on the brisket itself. We're going to go ahead and pour it on the brisket. This is going to make sure it locks in moisture. And it's going to be extremely juicy. Alright? Just be super generous with this. Don't be shy. Okay? And then we're going to wrap this. Now it's important to wrap this tightly. So what I'm going to do here is flip it over. And again, we want to put it back on the smoker with the fat side up. This is the fat side up. So as we're folding this, we're going to make sure we end with the fat side up. Roll it over here. Alright. Then we're going to tuck in these corners. Come in really tightly. Roll it again, and now we are fat side up again. Again. Tuck this in super tightly. Now we are fat side down. So one more flip. As tight as you can get it, the better, to lock in that moisture. And there. So I'm going to cut it about here. I'm going to fold this in here. And if you don't get it super, super tight, that's okay, because we're going to fix that with the foil. So again, we're fat side up, and we're going to make a boat, so I have 2 sheets of foil here. We're going to put this right in the middle there. And just as the name suggests, we're going to make a little boat. Just fold this in. So what this is going to do is protect the edges, but still keep this fat side exposed so that we don't ruin our bark. I mean, it's not 100% exposed, but this butcher paper is breathable. It breathes, it lets in smoke and air, so it will maintain it, and the boat will catch all the juices. So now that we have this really good, we're going to throw this back on the smoker at 275 to 300. It should take about, I'm gonna guess, maybe 3-4 hours more, and it should be ready. And again, after that, we're gonna rest it in the oven at 150 for 12 hours. All right, so we have the brisket back on the smoker. I have a probe on the point, and we're gonna smoke this for another 3 to 4 hours until the internal temperature is at 203. That's my preference. And it probes like butter and is jiggly. At that point, we know it's done. We're going to throw it in the warmer for 12 hours, and we're going to have this tomorrow. Well, this is actually for my client, but it would be ready for tomorrow. So we're almost to the finish line, guys. Bear with me. Here we go. All right, everybody. We are finally done. It has been 15 hours. And she's finally ready. Let's see. We're gonna probe her. Oof. Go straight in like butter. She is reading at 203 at the point. Oh my gosh. There's like no resistance at all. So this is the paper, and then 206. And at the flat part, I'm just trying to get to that paper because inside it's super soft. It is reading at 203. Now I usually like to take it out at 203, so I would say it's done. The other thing to look for is the jiggle, and you lift it up and it bends. There's no resistance. She's ready to go. We're gonna rest her now in the oven at 150 for 12 hours, and tomorrow my client's gonna enjoy this. All right, guys, so I am ready to put this to rest in the oven. But I do like to let the steam release for at least 15 minutes here on the counter. It's already been out for a little bit. You can see it's dropped a little bit. It's still 201. But this thing is smooth like butter. There is no resistance here. See, it's like at 202. It is ready to go rest. But again, I like to set it out here for about 15 minutes, let the steam go out since it is covered. I don't want to lose that bark that we worked so hard to get. Look at that beautiful bark. It's pulling here a little bit because I moved it, but you can see that bark. It is delicious. I can already tell this is gonna be amazing. So shout out to my first customer. He is getting a delicious brisket. So yeah, I'm gonna be resting it here. I have my oven set to 155 because I measured the temp on here. It's not quite exact. Ideally, I would want it at 145, but this oven does not maintain the temperature perfectly at that temperature. I threw a probe in there and it was actually fluctuating like about 15 degrees, 20 degrees. So I put it at 155. That way it's, gonna drop down to about 140 to like 160, which is a perfect range for this. I'm gonna be keeping it there for 12 hours. And tomorrow, my client will be able to enjoy this. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. It has been a successful smoke session again. I'm definitely gonna have to, when I slice it, I'm gonna try a little bit. I'll see if I can get you guys a shot of that. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know. Leave comments down below. Like the video, please. I am new to YouTube. This is a new channel for me, and I'm doing what I love. I love barbecue. I love cooking, and it'd be amazing if you guys can support me. And if you ever get a chance and you're in Southern California, hit me up. I do sell these. I can do a whole brisket. I sometimes do a pop-up shop, and I sell combo plates with sides and other meats. And yeah, guys, so thank you for watching. I think I covered everything. If I didn't, let me know, and see you guys later.